Welcome back to another episode of A Gift from Adversity. My name is Juri Love. I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in. Today we are recording episode 151. Before I introduce my guest, I want to introduce my book, which is the same title as this podcast. It's called A Gift from Adversity, which is available on Amazon. If you type A Gift from Adversity by Juri, Juri, love, it'll come up. This is a book about my life, and the subtitle is Overcoming Sexual Abuse, Domestic Violence, Bullying, and Homelessness. Please get some copy and check out other episode of A Gift from Adversity, which is on Spotify as well. So let's invite our guest for tonight. Hello, Joe. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show, and congratulations for episode. What's the episode?
151.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I'm very grateful. Now, Joe, let's start with introducing yourself, your first name, last name, and then what you do. And then if you have a website or social media you want to promote, please share it with us.
Hi, I'm Joe Lemieux. I'm a full-time film producer for Dream Apex Pictures, which entails not just producing but writing and directing as well. Movies of different genres. Also full-time working at a copy center for Rico USA. I'm available on Facebook. I'm not available on Instagram, a little bit behind in the times. So that's it.
For the audience that are listening, can you spell out your last name and also your website?
We don't have a website currently, but my last name is Lemieux.
Great. And what kind of films are you producing?
We've produced in the past. We produced horror, fantasy. I produced a rom-com called The Stoop, award-winning Stoop. Won Best Screenplay at the Shawnee Film Festival in 2016, I believe. Currently working on a drama to be shot next year called Streets Have Teeth in the North End, which deals with addiction. It's a romantic drama as well, and another horror film as well.
Well, thank you very much. So, Joe, let's dive into the first question, which is the adversity. So, can you tell our audience what was your adversity?
My adversity stems from elementary school when I had learning disabilities. It was mainly I used to get these minute seizures which weren't detected, like the teacher couldn't identify, or I just seemed to go blank in the room, and I wasn't able to take in any information at all. And for that, it was a struggle to keep up with the class or even take in information. So a lot of teachers didn't understand or how to. There wasn't really a special needs class. So a lot of times they would just stick me in a room, kind of almost like segregated, which made me feel sad and left out of other classmates' studies. And I remember some students being far worse in their learning disabilities than me, but I happened to be in the room with them. So, but some of the teachers were able to contact my parents and have my parents. I just remember many times being taken out of school to the Boston Children's Hospital for examining, like to find out what was wrong with me, because I didn't know, and I just at the time as a child, like I just thought it was a little unfair that I couldn't keep up with everybody else. Like I thought I was the problem, and it led to some bullying on me from other kids, like calling me like retard or pretty much anything that's mean because I was different. And I remember at times I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, most of the time being taken out of school because I got to see the city of Boston with my mom, which was probably the highlight of it all. But it did scare me going into Mass General Hospital because they did have to put wires on my head and stick me in this room looked like a submarine to read my brain waves, which was frightening for me at my age. So.
So that was during your elementary school?
Yes. They were able to get me a prescription of Ritalin at the time, and they were able to diagnose it was a combination ADHD and dyslexia. Um, the one thing I always had problem with like multiplication and math, and but I never had a problem with my imagination. Um, I just remember anytime I could draw or something like that, I had no problem drawing. And my mom would always say, like, if they could only measure you, test you based on your imagination, I'd probably excel. Um, but I do remember some teachers saying to my parents, saying, with my learning disabilities, I might not be able to function in everyday society, which I'm sure broke my parents' hearts to have to hear. And it wasn't very nice to have me hear it either. Like, where would I fit in the world with my learning disabilities, where I just want to be like everybody else? So,
So what happened after that? Like middle school, high school, and then
uh, middle school and high school, the learning disabilities were still there, um, and I still got picked on. I mean, it my brother-in-law, future brother-in-law Bill, he taught me how to stick up for myself. I mean, I was never a fighter at all, but I did have to at one point defend myself, which it's the only time ever I did detention in middle school. Um, I just remember the teacher pat me on the back for defending myself um, when I spent detention there. That's the teachers back then would stick up for me, which which I found very nice. But yeah, the learning disability. I mean, I never kept behind. I did my best in studying. Um, again, I excelled in art classes and special needs classes certainly helped out. Like whatever it is, the requirements for the special needs class were counted as normal classes for me, and the special needs class teachers were very kind and generous. And the same goes for high school as well.
you mentioned a little bit about bullying and then people calling you names. What are the bullyings? I know like these days cyberbullying and stuff, but like back then, not so much of maybe cyberbullying, but like maybe come to your face and then say something, or like what did it look like in terms of bullying in America?
Um, I'd get pushed into lockers, or sometimes they'd wait for me to pass a classroom and then check me, push me to fall face first into the classroom. I remember at wood shop where I would have my books on the desk, and they nailed my books to the desk, so I couldn't. It's kind of funny now. It wasn't funny then, but I I had to get a hammer to pry the book off my desk because the nails went through it. Um, and then having to go to class with a book with nails in it, and they tell me to turn to page such and such, and I couldn't because the book was nailed shut. Um, they used to spit in my locker too, leave notes, call me a retard. Um, but yeah, and I just can't imagine if I had social media back then, because when I left school, it mainly stopped. They didn't follow me home. So I was able to um, go home, and it would end there. Although I dreaded going to school certain days, and I would avoid going to the through the front entrance or disguise myself so I wouldn't stick out or whatever. I don't know.
One of the live comments is say, what do you think they get out of doing that to someone?
Um, I'm thinking maybe they were abused, maybe from a family member or themselves, and I think maybe by doing the same to me would make them feel stronger. Maybe because I think it, I'm not sure if it's a tendency, but a lot of times people who are abusive have been abused by themselves in the past. Um, and sometimes it comes from home life or other people, sometimes even adults. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like the $1 million question. If I kind of knew, because I was more than willing to be friends with anybody because I didn't have a lot of friends in junior high or high school. Um, majority of times I would disappear at the comic book store or or disappear into my room and also disappear into my imagination.
Well, Joe, one of the comments said that's so sad. Hurt humans, hurt other humans.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't even imagine that, and I would never, even today, I would even think of doing that to somebody. And and even right around that time period, um, the comic book store I used to go to, um, later on, the owner of that was someone who was a pedophile who owned the comic book store, and he was friendly. I mean, there were certain things that were a bit off, but like he like would pat boys on their behinds. The story he used to do it to me. Um, but at the time, I was thinking like I'd see that in baseball on national TV, like baseball players grabbing each other's butts and stuff like that. So I was thinking that's the way I um, kind of figured like, oh, maybe this is normal. I don't know. I'm just a kid. And then later on, to found out that he actually attacked a child in Quincy. Luckily, nothing serious happened to that child, but the man was arrested. And I always wondered if he was always a pedophile and that the comic book store was a front to him to lure kids, or if it came later on. I have no idea. So it was quite horrifying.
So one of the live comment is asking, how did that affect you as an adult?
Or it affect me as a what?
How did that affect you as an adult?
Adult.
We were talking about like
Yeah.
elementary school, middle
Mhm.
school, high school, but that experience that you had in childhood, how did it affect you as an adult?
Um, as an adult, well, I didn't. I didn't get picked on after high school. I mean, it didn't happen in college or any other studies or even in everyday life. I didn't get picked on a lot. It was certainly emotional to go through it all. If anything, I'd maybe look at the world from a different perspective. Um, and, and of course, with my learning disabilities, I think I just maybe realized I'm just a different person. I'm different from everybody else. Um, and the learning disability doesn't make me any less or more more of a human being, or and not less able to achieve whatever goals I want in my life, um, or dreams. Um, I think I'm the only one in my high school yearbook who put down in his yearbook that went out to do what he did, and I put in my yearbook I wanted to make movies, and, and here I am, I'm making movies. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes you have to almost rewire your brain to what affects you. Um, like I still disappear into my imagination now and then, but I don't hide there where I used to hide as a child of my imagination to get away from bullies. So
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about your childhood experiences and the bullying. And I just want to share quickly about my experience as a Japanese student or working in Japan or even here too. I definitely got my share of being bullied heavily. Well, on top of being abused by my dad, sexually, physically. But it's kind of weird because I was so abused at home. The bullying at school was kind of numb. Like, oh, it's not a scale, but if my father's sexual abuse and physical abuse are 10, the bully was like maybe 3. So, I kind of like, okay, whatever. I'm already like messed up. Like my like life is already hell. Like, what more could it happen? Like the bullying is like not like nothing, but like compared to getting the
mhm.
physical abuse. So that was kind of my perspective. Um so I am very sorry. I understand. And I also wanted to share talking about the social media, the back in the days, the bullying stopped at home. And I mean school, like when you go home, you don't have anything to follow, like social media, texting and stuff.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I wrote an article about a father who lost his son to a suicide at age 13,
Yeah.
uh, mostly social media bullying. And after the fact he died, that he found out a lot of it from his computers and then different things that he really regretted that he didn't investigate or prevent it um, when he was alive. So it's just really sad. And then one of the things I wanted to mention when we were talking about this bullying conversation, either if you have a disability or not having a disability, like it's just like a weird concept in a way that the father was saying to the audience that um, basically bullying happens because of audience. So if there's an up standard, if you say, hey, that's not cool, and then if 5 kids are watching somebody bully somebody, so then 2 kids out of 5 will say, hey, that's not cool what you're doing, you can't pick on somebody, and then the bullying stops because there's no audience. So it's almost like you make film, nobody watches, and then you just can't make money off of it, right? So in a way that his message was, how can you be upstanding? How can you be the even like the last person on your earth to stand up for somebody and then hey, like call out the BS. So it's really unfortunate that you didn't have that kind of ally and you didn't have um those people who had a courage to call out, you know, the BS and then hey, it's not cool, it's not ethical. And then I blame on the teachers as well that, that severe bullying, like nailing the book on the desk, or that's so severe. Like, so how can the teachers even tolerate it? I think the teachers should be fired. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, the guidance counselor, where were they? So the expectation of the school teachers and admin and adults, those are in charge of supervising children for getting bullied, right? So like, no,
Yeah.
where were they? What did they do to you?
There was one teacher. Um, there used to be these two kids who would sit behind me and shoot spitballs at me with straws. Do you know what a spitball is? It's a piece of paper you roll up in your mouth and you stick in the straw and they spit at you. They used to do it constantly. And then one day the teacher's like, "Oh, wait, we're changing seating arrangements." So I sat in the back and he set the two kids up front. The teacher gave me straws and paper and gave all the rest of the class straws and paper and said, "Everybody can shoot spitballs at the two kids now who used to do it at Joe, and I didn't see a thing." So we got the spitballs at the kids, and the two kids who were bullies were like, "I'm gonna tell my dad." I'm like, "Go right ahead. We'll tell them exactly what you've been doing for the past couple of weeks." So, which was nice to see and kind of funny.
Did they stop after?
Oh yeah, they did.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm so sorry. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before the show about addiction and sobriety and stuff. So do you mind to share of
Yes,
that story?
definitely. Um, I mean, with the first time I remember, I mean, there wasn't any alcohol abuse in my family. I mean, there was always liquor in the house. My parents would have cocktails, and I know sometimes we'd have a sip of something or a kid or something. Um, but I just remember I was like 16 or 17 having someone found a case of beer somewhere or down in Wareham, Massachusetts, and I had a beer, and the first time I had ever had alcohol of that consumption, and it for me at the first time it felt amazing. It was like it was almost like it felt like I was getting all the answers to all the things that were missing from my life. That's what alcohol for me at that time, trying it for the first time. Um, and later on, it seemed to make me more sociable. Like I felt like now I can talk to people, and I feel like this is what adults do: stand at the bar. I could. It felt like it was part of the gang or everybody's gang, no matter the group. Um, but eventually, it got out of control. Like the past, I think I've always wanted to stop drinking. It was just a lot of times, like I'm learning now, it's so difficult to admit you have a problem, um, especially when you're a full grown adult. You don't want to think you don't want people to think that you can't keep it together and be responsible for your own actions. Uh, if it's past 7 years, the alcohol took over to the point um, I was drinking before work and drinking at work and sometimes not coming home, sleeping outside. Um, and this past year, thankfully, for a dear friend of mine had me sent to rehab, which I knew nothing about, but I was when I need to find an answer. I need to stop this. And I was scared. I was scared. I was even more scared if I didn't go. And I was going to wait a week, but I'm pretty sure if I didn't go, I would have died. It was that close to it. Um, and I went to rehab, and I went in there weighing um, like 140 pounds. It was nothing to me. I stopped eating at that point. I was just drinking. My blood pressure was 198, 199, which is known as the silent killer. Um, just gave up on life. Um, and even there, I was scared. I thought I was in an insane asylum because I could hear people crying out at nighttime saying, "I just want to go home." But I got such great care there, such compassion and loving and support, um, trying to help me with my addiction. And I learned so much there. Like someone who was there with me said, one beer is one too many and 100 is not enough. And the things I had to learn, again, rewiring my brain, was that I give up one thing, alcohol, I get everything back for free. But if I stick with that one thing, alcohol, I lose everything. Um, and now I'm currently 1 year and 4 weeks, and the fight continues. And it's for me. I didn't black out drunk. Like I can remember everywhere in Harvard Square I stumbled and fell down drunk, or tried to get home. And it's not like I think about that stuff all the time, but I my therapist and sponsor think it's good to have those memories because that will keep me sober. Because I never want to go back to whoever I was before. And I'm kind of to the point where I don't think over the past 7 years I even recognize who that person I was at that point. And and now everything going forward, everything I create or the friends that I make now, it's such great relationships. Like I have filmmakers who I've known for years say when they meet me now, they feel like they're meeting me for the first time. Um, and I would never do anything that jeopardizes the relationships I have now. It's very hard to have a relationship with anybody when you have an addiction to alcohol or drugs. Um, and I've been very creative lately too. Since rehab, getting out of rehab of last year in November, I've written 5 feature-length screenplays, and I'm producing two shorts, one about experiencing sobriety in summertime for the first time, because me experiencing spring this past spring sober felt like I was experiencing spring when I was 12 years old, before I even knew what alcohol was. It was like stepping into the land of Oz. Everything was so vibrant, the smells. Um, and I just stay vigilant. I go to my AA meetings 3 or 4 a week. Try to pass on the message of sobriety to anybody who wants to learn. Um, again, it's not easy. There are times I miss the buzz, but there's a lot of baggage that comes with the buzz. Um, and anytime I think of maybe just one sip, but I know that one sip would be the end of it all. End of it all. Everything I've created now, positively, um, will be washed away in one sip, and I don't ever want to do that. Life is too good now. I actually enjoy waking up in the morning. I used to hate mornings, and anytime I can wake up sober, it's a miracle. It's a blessing, and I like to think that God was there at my lowest point, and He's with me now. So.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for being so open about your addiction and rehab experience. And, I think what people don't understand about addiction is that when you are addicted to something, you just don't know because you're in the middle of the storm. And I'm really grateful that you were able to get help and then be able to see the other side of it, because a lot of people I've talked to or learned from, sometimes they die, and then I lost my friend to the alcohol addiction and blood clots as well, because sometimes it's too late, your body cannot keep up with it. That you are saying blood pressure was 192, like it's just crazy that you say silent killer. And blood pressure is something that you can't measure much. And I just want to share my experience that I had a concussion after a car crash. 17-year-old T-born meaning August, and then when I went to ER, my blood pressure was 183 or something. I've never had that much of high blood pressure with the concussion, but I had no idea until somebody checks. And then one time my blood pressure was 60, the high, because I was having miscarriage. And you just never know what blood pressure does. But when you have that kind of number, it's kind of weird because I thought I was okay, but I wasn't okay. And then, it's an indicator that sometimes those numbers, like abnormal numbers, are weird, but it's kind of a reminder, hey, you need to get help. Like, you are in serious trouble. If you don't do anything, you are gonna die. And hey, this is not okay number. We have to do something about it. So, I'm in a way that I'm very sorry that happened. But my question to you though, Joe, um, you mentioned earlier about the bullying and then disability and then all this childhood trauma and challenges that alcohol kind of gave you a sense of belongings, maybe like you were sociable, that you were able to talk to people. Um, do you think the part of it that the childhood challenge kind of led to that?
It was a combination of that. Like later on, before I graduated high school, my dad passed away when I was 16 years old. He was 55. Um, it was weird. He passed away on the same day as one of my close friends' mom. My friend's mom died the same day as him, which is so weird. I found out about her passing away, and through that day at high school, I was thinking I couldn't imagine what it was like to lose a parent. And then I found out my dad was dead when I got home that day. And I knew with my friends, my new friends, who I'm still very close today with, we drank a lot. I think mainly to cover up for the pain of losing parents or something. Maybe maybe just thought we knew life wasn't fair, and we figured we'd have a great time, even though it wasn't a great time, um, with alcohol and some some fond memories from some of that crazy stuff. But I think it was a combination of that, and over the past 7 years, there's been a lot of changes in my life. Like I had to move to a new area, which I'm very happy where I am now. New work location that wasn't healthy either. Plus, alcohol's a depressant. So when you think you're drinking something to make you happy, you're actually making yourself even worse and more sad. Um, and negative thoughts. I was so lost. I even contemplated suicide a couple of times over the past couple of years because I had no idea how to get rid of this addiction. I thought, but I couldn't think of taking my life, and because I would leave such ruin behind. So, because many times someone takes their life, they don't realize the people left behind are the ones who suffer more. Um, but yeah, I think it was a combination of many things. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think we are whatever that makes us who we are is all the things we go through, the journey. Like, I also feel that sometimes if you're following a path and there's no obstacles and it leads nowhere, we learn from those things. We learn from falling down and getting back up again. Um, so,
Well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing that a lot. And then I just want to really share it with you and then our audience. My philosophy is every problems um got a solution. But the problem is to identify the problem. When you are in the middle of addiction and adversity, you just don't even know that you are in this horrible situation or addiction. And then once you get out of that problem, and then you can kind of identify what was the problem and then how can I fix that. But then a lot of times people don't get to that stage even when you're in the middle of storm. Like you just don't even know that you are in this craziness. So I'm very happy that you were now able to kind of look back and then pinpoint maybe absolute two major things that maybe led to the addiction. Now you can kind of move forward to the solution part of it.
Mhm.
So let's dive into the second questions, which is my favorite part of the show of um, all the episodes that I've done. Because next question is, what are the tools that you use to overcome the adversity that you faced? And then before you share it with us, the reason why this is my favorite part of the podcast is obviously everybody has a story, and then a lot of people go through a lot of challenges. But every guest that I had on A Gift from Adversity, this podcast, gave us so many great tools and then so many unique techniques that I even applied for myself. So, Joe, can you tell us what tools did you use that worked for you to overcome this adversity?
Um, as far as addiction goes, like other than attending the AA meetings and having a sponsor and a therapist, um, I've also had like with the addiction, I had to rewire my brain. So a lot of times, there are these things called triggers. Triggers can sometimes trigger you to have a drink. It could be a bad day at work, or things don't work out the way it's supposed to, and sometimes it'll be like, hey, I'm going the hell with this day. I'm gonna go get banged up and have a bunch of beers. Um, so now I kind of just think now it's just a bad day. Like having the drink will relieve it for a millisecond, but then having a bunch of drinks on top of that is just going to make the day feel even worse, and it's going to drag on to the next day and maybe the whole week. So now a bad day is just a bad day. Things sometimes don't always work out. Like the car doesn't start or something like that. You just have to rethink it. Um, Sometimes people think the trigger is missing the drink. It's not. The drink is the cover up for life, the everyday life that doesn't work out the way it's supposed to. Um, as far as the bullying goes, like if anybody not coming, I mean, Boston's a big city. We run into a lot of individuals. Some are in the throes of their own addiction, and or there's bullies in everyday life. I try not to have. I really have no buttons to push. Um, People can pretty much say anything they want to me. It's not going to affect me. I used to lash out at people. I don't do that anymore. Because I'm always worried about the consequences of lashing out. What if it leads to a fight? Or my biggest fear is like severely injuring something. Not that I'm a good fighter. I've never been in a fight in my entire life. Other than that time I defended myself in junior high. I'm always worried of the consequences. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. But it's like where I never really had many friends in junior high or elementary school. I'm very more sociable now, even without the booze. Like I'm still a social butterfly. I'm always um, reaching out to people, especially if they have a desire to be a filmmaker. I always encourage them, like Life is too short to not take a chance. I'm always handing out. This past Halloween, I was up in Beacon Hill handing out business cards. Everybody's like, everybody wants to work, make a movie. Let me know. Um, and I also believe in paying it forward um, and staying humble. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just I try not to carry as much of the past with me, other than the stuff I've learned. Um, and I almost tried not to have any regrets. Um, I mean, of course, there are times I do regret not saying to my dad I loved him, even though I know sure he did, because um, when he died, he was gone in a second. So, but those are things anybody would probably regret. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. Just I try to be positive all the time and get people involved, especially in anything creative. And everyone thinks so. They think, oh, it's like, oh, you're in the movie business because you're in it for the money. Like, the money? That's the worst reason to be in the movies. It's like, it's not the driving force. It's fun. Yes, I'd like to make money at it, but uh, if it's really concerned about money, I'd be a dentist or a plumber. Uh, so that's what it.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for coming to A Gift from Adversity. My last question to you is a gift that came from the adversity. So, would you please tell our audience what was the gift that came from your adversity?
Um, the gift was, I think, was it's almost like being able to step outside myself and look at life from a different perspective. Um, like even the bullying, I almost think it's like a lot of times the person doing the bullying has been bullied themselves in the past. Um, and the same goes with anybody with any kind of addiction. If I see like homeless people on the street or alcoholics on the street, I mean, I never looked down at them in the past. I just now, if anything, I say a little prayer, hoping they find some peace in their life the way I have. Um, and anybody with struggling with some kind of addiction, and also not to let whatever happened in the past affect my future. Um, just continue to be positive and humble. Um, not take life for granted. Life is too short. I mean, we all know that, and it's shorter than we think. Um, and life is also beautiful. There's a lot of horrible things going on in the world, but life is also quite beautiful. And I'm blessed to wake up every morning and see the sunrise. Because anybody who can stay sober for 15 minutes or 24 hours is a walking miracle. Um, so, and my goal is to pass on sobriety to other people, to remind them that alcohol, it lies to you. It's very insidious, especially if you're alone. It speaks to you even more when you're alone. It makes you feel powerful and gives you hope. And if anything, it does just the opposite. But yeah, life is pretty good.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for coming to A Gift from Adversity, episode 151. If you could give some advice to people who are going through bullying, maybe disability, or addiction, what is your biggest advice that you can leave for the show?
As far as bullying goes, um, it's different now with social media. I'd say seek advice from guidance counselors if possible, or teachers, um, or maybe the bullies are trying to look for friends themselves too. Maybe just be friendly to the person who's being bullying. A lot of times, lashing out at them is what they want. Greet them with a smile. Take all the wind out of their sail. Which I kind of do that now with adults. Um, and as far as like learning disabilities, there's a lot more going on now as far as learning disabilities than it was back when I was a kid. So much more therapy, cognitive learning, meditation helps me out big time now. I've been a Buddhist 9 years, and that comes with it as well. I even took classes on transcendental meditation with David Lynch. Not that I met him personally, but classes were online. Um, and the drug addiction or alcohol, try to attend a meeting or go to an AA meeting or do something that to intervene. It's a deadly disease. It is a disease, but so difficult to where the world there's alcohol and everything in rituals and family gatherings and film industry, the music industry, the alcohol is everywhere. It's so nice now to actually when you attend events now that there's no alcohol. Like I think the society is finally waking up on addiction to alcohol. That it doesn't always have to be there, and it shouldn't always be the answer either. Um, but also, yeah, if you can seek help at either AA or in some or a hospital or something.
Well, thank you very much for coming to a gift University again. And I really hope that our conversation to our listeners, sharing it with you and our audience, somehow give good perspective and insight so that people don't have to suffer and then learn from our conversation to move forward and have a better day. So thank you very much again for tuning in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
You too. Bye bye.